Hey everybody, what's up? I got my deck all done. So I just wanted to go over it, and it really gave me those Greasefang vibes that, I kind of first started this channel off with. And, those videos were very successful, of course. Just like the graveyard matters type of thing is, I think that's kind of definitely a thing I return to now and then. And yeah, I just been really enjoying just the CEDH EDH, um, card selection. Just the overall selection you can get from playing in Commander is it's just wonderful. And I just wanted to start with like these various amount of tutors that I have, and that I can go through when I'm playing mono black. So let's just kind of go over these ones. And I'd also say, like, you can play more expensive tutors, like Demonic Tutor, of course, is very good. Vampiric Tutor, those ones are very good. These ones are just the ones I have access to, and I'd say they synergize fairly well with my deck. So I'm pretty happy with the choices that I picked, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit more. But if you're not familiar with what a tutor is, it's basically a card that you can cast, or it's basically a trait of a card that you can cast where you can go ahead and take a look into your library, find that card, and if it designates, you can put it into your hand. Some tutors, like in different colors, like Mystical Tutor, Worldly Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, those are in like the white, blue, and green colors. Those ones will just put cards on the top of your library, whereas a lot of the black tutors, they'll typically just put the card into your hand, which is very nice. Some of them have different criteria. For instance, to cast a spell, you first have to sacrifice a creature. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, and then shuffle. So very powerful, of course, just looking for any card that you want and putting it directly into your hand. It's very effective. So additionally, what's really nice about the deck we're going to be playing is that it offers these creatures that can actually tutor up cards themselves. So getting value out of our creatures to do the similar kind of role that a tutor would is just amazing. And we want to kind of abuse this, with our commander as well. And I'll be revealing the commander pretty soon in a second. However, this one is really amazing. It gives kind of, you basically provide an ultimatum to your opponent, where they have to pick of one of the two cards that you tutor for. One of you get to put in your hand, and the other you get to put into your graveyard. So you can really put them in tough spots, and it really benefits you, because we can create outcomes that will benefit us for putting things in our graveyard and getting some things in our hand, and really put the opponents to the test to make a tough decision. So I really like Burning Rune Demon for this deck as well. Additionally, you have just the Rune Scar Demon. This one just enters the battlefield, and you can just go ahead and search your library for a card, put it into hand. Very nice. Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded. It's a 8 mana legendary creature demon. It's an 8/8. Whoa! Flying and trample. Pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a card, and put that card in your hand. So just like a super duper combo card where you're just sacrificing a creature, tutoring for your combo pieces, and trying to take away the game from there. Very interesting card, very cool as well. And then, of course, the Wishclaw Talisman. What an interesting card this is. And I've seen a couple different takes on it, and people will sometimes say that you can utilize this as like a political tool. Say, for instance, because black doesn't have very good access to, enchantment removal, artifact removal. Perhaps if you and an opponent wanted to work against another opponent that was kind of getting out of control, you might make a deal with an opponent like that you'd like basically tutoring for a specific card, maybe one that wouldn't win you the game, but maybe it would just bring you value. And then the opponent, as the deal, would be wishclawing for something to deal with that problem. It's an interesting kind of way to look at the Wishclaw. Once again, though, it can just be also utilized just to like search for a game-winning card as well. So, you're just kind of using it as you may. And once again, remove a wish counter from Wishclaw Talisman, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and shuffle. And it answers with 3 wish counters. So very interesting. Once that wish is removed, the opponent, an opponent of your choice gets to gain control of Wishclaw Talisman, and you can only do it during your turn. Okay, the searching. So that's very interesting. So there's some really fantastic tutors, and obviously Mono Black has some great ones to look at, huh? So the commander of our choosing is Sauron the Necromancer, and he's wonderful. It's just a wonderful creature card. And really what's going to be making this one effective is like having the abilities to give this haste, so that the moment it comes on the battlefield, you can attack with it and have something in the graveyard, a creature card, and bring that creature back and derive value from it. So we're really looking for creatures that have like attack triggers, or ones that trigger upon combat or have strong enter the battlefield characteristics, such as those Rune Scar Demon and Rune Demons. Once they enter the battlefield, you get to look for that card. So just really exceptional synergy with Sauron the Necromancer. So let's just go ahead and read the card. Menace. Whenever Sauron the Necromancer attacks, exile target creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black wraith with Menace. At the beginning of the next end step, exile that token unless Sauron is your ring bearer. Yeah, so the creature will stick if Sauron is the ring bearer. So we will definitely be playing wraiths in this deck too. We would definitely want to have ways to have Sauron be our ring bearer. It's amazing, right? To have Lord of the Rings and Magic, it's a great crossover. And it's just a great creature. So let's look at the support for Sauron the Necromancer. So, of course, we have our Lightning Greaves here. This is a nice 2-mana play where we can equip this for 0 onto Sauron and just start attacking, and really start deriving value from our graveyard. Additionally, we have Swiftfoot Boots. Equip creature has Hexproof and Haste. Equip 1. Very nice as well. Okay, so giving us another chance for that hasty creature that's also protected. And then the big payoffs. So Panharmonicon is fantastic. So if we have like Panharmonicon on the battlefield, and we have like a Rune Scar Demon come on the battlefield, then we can go ahead and go through that process twice where we're tutoring for 2 cards. We get one into our hand, the other into our graveyard, then do it all over again with the Panharmonicon because it's doubling our enter the battlefield triggers. So we're going to be very good for entering the battlefield triggers for our creatures or artifacts. Additionally, here's just another great card that's going to be our payoffs for our creatures, like to have enter the battlefield triggers, like a Sheoldred. So we can go ahead and summon up a Sheoldred and from the graveyard and have everybody sacrifice a non-token creature. It'll be great. And also if we have a Panharmonicon, they're going to be doing it over and over again. So it's going to be nice. So this is just a nice 5-mana play too. And it's just going to go very well with our graveyard synergy. It flips into this card, of course. The True Scriptures. And that is the saga that you can flip into. I believe it's 5 mana there, yes. So we can exile Sheoldred, then return it to the battlefield, transformed under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery, and only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So you have to meet that criteria. Very, kind of a more strict criteria. And then we go ahead and destroy a creature for each opponent, which is nice. Selection. Then each opponent discards 3 cards. That's kind of devastating. And then mills 3 cards. And then number 3, put all creature cards from your graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, exile the True Scriptures, and then return to the battlefield. And then Sheoldred comes back. So just a cool card. Okay. So one of the definitely the Wombo Bombo combos is the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. And we can see with Panharmonicon, this trigger is just going to be doubled twice. This one works off of devotion. So when Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Each swamp in the mana cost of permanents you control counts towards your devotion to black. So let's just get an example here. So for instance, if I had a Sheoldred on the battlefield only, and a Grey Merchant of Asphodel also came onto the battlefield, we would have 4 devotion total. On that trigger, so each opponent would lose 4 life, and you would gain, if you had 3 opponents, 12. Okay, so that's kind of nice. And then, of course, with like a Panharmonicon, then we're going to be doubling this. So we're just going to want to like figure out ways to get Gary onto the battlefield. We want to be able to like sacrifice Gary, possibly recur him with some of the other resurrection spells we have. Get him back into the graveyard once again, and then probably finish off an opponent, for instance, with a Witch King. or I mean the Sauron. The thing about Sauron you have to understand, though, is that it exiles the creature. So we have to be careful, like, about losing our Gary. You know, we want to definitely be utilizing it, you know, to its best effect. And once this card is resurrected from the graveyard, we will lose it. It will not return back to the graveyard. So that is something to keep in mind. Additionally, from Gary, we have some other awesome enter the battlefield triggers that would just be great to resurrect with Sauron, like Massacre Worm. That'd be a nice one where you just enter this battlefield and all the creatures on the battlefield get -2/-2. And each opponent loses 2 life for those instances. So that's really amazing. And then additionally, Ancient Brass Dragon as well. So this is just an amazing attack combat creature where we resurrect it as a wraith. It comes back, we deal combat damage, and then we roll a d20 and resurrect a number of creature cards in the graveyards, extra less based on that roll die total of the mana value of the roll die. So it's just another amazing card. So really proud of this deck. It looks very, very fun. You know, we're just going to move right into this because I have everything laid out here. So here is our selective cards that we're going to help put cards into our graveyard selectively, which will be very, very beneficial for Sauron. So we have Entomb. That's just a classic 1 mana one. Very strong card. Search your library for a card. Any card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. Unmarked Grave is very similar. It has to be a non-legendary card. Put that card in the graveyard, then shuffle. So that's also another nice one for us. We just selectively put a card. It's additional, casts 1 more than an Entomb. So it's a little weaker, but it still does the trick. Persist. This is just a nice 2 mana resurrection spell. Just fantastic at the 2 mana rate. You can just return a non-legendary creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. So what? I mean, just the 2 mana play, it's just fantastic. Same goes with Animate Dead. I mean, there's not really too many drawbacks with this. You just have a creature in your graveyard, you pay 2 mana, and it just comes back. There's not really much of this you ever see in Standard, or even like in the historic arena area. I mean, you just don't have these kind of cards available. These are just kind of unprecedented, like 2 mana resurrection spells. It's just kind of wild stuff. And this one's probably the craziest one. Reanimate, where you can just go ahead and reanimate any creature card in your graveyard. Oh my god, it's any graveyard too. Put target creature card from a graveyard. Is that Animate Dead too? It's any graveyard for the Animate Dead as well. Holy crap. Yeah, Persist is from your graveyard, whereas Animate Dead is any graveyard. Oh my god, this is just amazing, right? And then Reanimate is also just any card, any creature card from any any graveyard. It's under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So is that also for this one? Yeah. Just put it into play. Yeah. I like the text on Reanimate because it just definitely says it's under your control. You know, it's a very descriptive way of saying it. I would assume putting in play is this would mean under your play. So interesting verbiage from Reanimate, I'd say. Definitely more descriptive. So we like that, of course. Agadim Awakening, just another thing. Amazing card. It can act as a land. We'll likely probably be using it for his resurrection purposes and like resurrecting the Grey Merchant of Asphodel and really going to town with it. So yeah, I just think it's really fantastic. So this one will resurrect multiple targets with converted. They have to have different casting costs. Like, so if you did it for 5, you can get a 5 mana card, a 4 mana card, a creature card, 3 mana card, 2 mana card, 1 mana card for creatures. So they have to have different casting costs. So really cool card, very interesting design there. And this one doesn't really resurrect things per se, but rather just kind of protects us and will return it if we do sacrifice it. So it's a really cool card. You can just imagine this with the Grey Merchant, once again, like sacrificing the Grey Merchant, putting a Malachor Rebirth, you know, prior to you doing that, to sacrificing. And yeah, just having it come back once again and having that enter the battlefield triggers. So woo, I mean, so such easy synergy. It's like very easy. It's very straightforward. You know, that's what I like about these colors. It's like, you know, such a straightforward deck. So I really like it a lot. We definitely have some zombie synergy. So a card like Gravecaller is really cool to just kind of resurrect back and forth. This is just our fodder here. Bitter Blossom, just really good at creating that continual fodder that we can sacrifice. Skull Clamp is great with Bitter Blossom. Jadar, the Ghoul Caller, just another sweet card that creates more and more fodder for us. Just an amazing card. Just over and over again, just creates zombie tokens. As long as we don't control a decayed zombie, it just will do that all in the end step. Blood Gas is just amazing. Just get this thing in our graveyard and just slap lands down. It just comes back over and over again. Just another wild landfall card, no doubt. And then we have our cards that are going to kind of get us there with sacrifice. We can sacrifice artifacts. For instance, maybe we sacrifice like a Shriekhorn that no longer serves any purposes, and then just like draw a couple cards from our opponents. Maybe we sacrifice a creature. You know, you can sacrifice lands, enchantments. You can do all the above with this Braids. So that's a really fine card for each opponent who doesn't do this at the end step. Once we sacrifice one of those things, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card if they don't do it. Really good, really good. And then Yawgmoth is just that free sack outlet. Like at any moment, at any time, we can go ahead and sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on something, draw a card, and it has that very interesting text where we can discard a card. We really love that for this deck, just to be able to put cards selectively into our graveyard, and then it will proliferate as well. It's a very interesting card in general, Yawgmoth. All right, so we're rolling. Here is our ramp package. So we have the Phyrexian Tower. It could just add colorless or sacrifice a creature for adding swamp. It's very good. Cabal Coffers. This is the one where it's going to add swamp to our mana pool for each swamp you control. Cabal Stronghold. This could add colorless too, which is always nice. But then it has that added benefit. If we do have a lot of basics happen to be on the battlefield, maybe we can net a mana or 2 from it. So that'd be fine. Nykthos. This is just going to benefit from us playing mono black. It's just an extreme amount of mana for our devotion. Once again, devotion comes into play. Playing that low cost of 2 and tapping it, maybe adding 6 mana at a time if we have enough devotion on the battlefield. Maybe more, maybe less, but maybe probably netting mana, of course, with it. And you could always add colorless, so there's no real drawback. Urza Saga, I would consider this like mana ramp because of the chapter 3 where we can find like a Soul Ring. Maybe we can find a Mox Amber if we wanted. So I do think it's like a form of kind of ramp, and we can kind of selectively look for things. Maybe we want to find a Skull Clamp, for instance, would be nice if we wanted to like kind of start generating card advantage. So I really do like Urza Saga very much here. Crypt of Agadim will just reward us for playing an abundance of creatures, having those creatures in our graveyard, paying 2, tapping this, sort of like Nykthos, and adding Swamp to our mana pool for each black creature card in our graveyard. Fantastic. Add Swamp to our mana pool, only drawback is it comes in tapped. Mox Amber for some extra ramp. We're gonna have lots of legendaries with our Wraith creatures, so that's also a very nice interaction there. Dark Ritual. This one is gonna add 3 to our mana pool for the low cost of 1, so some nice acceleration. So that one is very nice. Soul Ring, also very good here. So it's gonna be adding that just for that low colorless cost, adding 2 colorless. It's very good for our deck. We definitely will not have too many, so like cards that will only contain black will definitely have some colorless going on. So it's a very strong card for us. Springleaf Drum to get advantage from adding mana by tapping our creatures down. Also very good. Thought Vessel. This one will have no maximum hand size for us. That's nice. If we do like start to accrue a lot of cards, add 1 to our mana pool, which is good. Arcane Signet, add 1 mana of any color in our commander's color identity, also very good. And then Mind Stone, so this one is the one that we can actually sacrifice it to draw a card if we must. And also it could just add colorless mana to our mana pool. So there's some ramp there for us, so not so bad so far. Let's talk about our creatures and also the ways we're going to be building our graveyard. So Dakmor Salvage is a really nice one. If we get into our graveyard, we can start dredging with it and start putting cards into our graveyard, more additional cards, getting more looks, building our graveyard up, of course. So that's always a nice option. Can always act as a land and add swamp as well. We have Takanuma here. This will also build our graveyard. It can also act as like a land as well. So that's another nice fine channel land. Stitcher Supplier. This is one of those fantastic ones that will mill our library, and then if we sacrifice it, we do the same action over, milling the top 3 cards of our library in our graveyard. So very strong card for us, obviously. Egon, the God of Death. We can primarily use this card for the Throne of Death. I think it's a nice, fine card. It's just like gives us that extra ounce of milling, you know, just to mill a card every upkeep. Also gives us an option to pay mana and to untap it to draw. So it has some fine characteristics to it. And of course, if and all else fails, you just play it as a 6/6. So really not that bad, right? All right, so there's that. Here's the Shriekhorn, and this one is the one that is going to mill us a good amount of cards at a really good rate, where we can get about four mills before a turn cycle. You know, we can tap it down, you know, and then like tap it down again the next turn, and really just have like basically 4 cards in our graveyard for the cost of 1, and then additionally do it again for another, because it has 3 charge counters. So definitely a sweet card for mono black to mill, to be able to mill more cards into the graveyard, get more looks. Mire Triton is just a creature that mills cards, so it's good to have that kind of creature with the enter the battlefield characteristic. Very good for Sauron too. Just building our graveyard more, and then gain us some life with getting the Death Toucher on the battlefield seems good. Undead Butler as well. This one is fantastic. It's going to mill 3 cards de facto when it comes down, and then when it dies, you may exile it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can selectively put cards from your graveyard back into your hand as well. So we have a good assortment of cards that will mill. Creature cards, artifact cards, like Mask of Memory doing combat damage, drawing cards, putting one back into our graveyard once we do that. Just really cool options here for us. Here's Mesmeric Orb as well. Just this will be an abundance of cards in the graveyard for everyone. So it's a very interesting card, very like kind of, you know, give and take, but I think we'll benefit more often than not from it. Timuret Calls the Dead. This one is exceptional. Just mills a lot of cards, put some, you know, fodder on the battlefield for us, for zombies. Really good for our blood gas, for our crypt gas. So it's very nice here. Timuret Calls the Dead. Very zombie orientated. And then we have all the wraiths. So we have all the Nazgul here, just looking really nice, just making everything good, making us have the ability to, on chapter 2 of the ring synergy, just putting cards, drawing cards and putting cards into our graveyard is really great for us. So we want to have like 2 Nazgul on the battlefield. Getting Sauron to be our ring bearer is going to be really, you know, it's going to be, you know, a nice payoff too. So it's going to do all the things we really wanted to do, and then these Nazgul can get very strong very quickly. So we definitely have some ring temp synergy here. We're going to have Call of the Ring as well. So these Nazguls are just amazing. So I'll just read one of them. This is basically, I have 9 in the deck. So Nazgul is a creature Wraith Knight with Death Touch. When Nazgul enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, put a 1/1 counter on each Wraith you control. A deck can have up to 9 cards named Nazgul. So it's really nice. Like, these things stack. So if you have another Nazgul on the battlefield, it's like +2/+2 at a time. It's just some nice ways that the Nazgul stack on each other and kind of give more power. So there's that. Here is Incarnation Technique. This one's an expensive one, so you know I'll consider it. I'm thinking this one would be fine. I'm also thinking of like of putting in a card like, I believe it's called like Culling the Meek, and it's just like an accelerator. I can imagine playing that kind of card in this deck as well. But this card is fine too, so we'll see what happens. But you know, I mean, like a card like there's so many good rituals in black, and I definitely think I want the Culling the Meek in here. So you know, this one looks a little expensive, but you know, I can definitely foresee playing it as well. You know, it definitely is going to build our graveyard. We have some nice, really strong creatures in here as well to bring into the battlefield, and it does everything kind of what we want it to do, right? So there's that. All right, so now we can go over kind of just the good black cards in the deck. They don't really, you know, well, actually, Orcus Bowmasters actually produces fodder too with the orc army, so that really goes well into that pile, like our fodder pile. But what a strong card, of course, really punishes the opponents for drawing an abundance of cards. So it can do a lot of damage. And for the low cost of 2, that's very good. Then Ayara, this is just going to like really build that devotion for us. The 3 black. So like a card like Nykthos gets so much stronger. A card like the Grey Merchant Asphodel gets so much stronger with these devotion cards. And this one is really nasty because it also works with the Panharmonicon. So it will trigger twice with the Panharmonicon on the field. For when a creature comes on the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain a life. It can also draw cards, so just a really solid card. Bolas Citadel seems really interesting too. It's kind of what I want to get like Coaling the Meek in there, just to maybe accelerate into like an early Bolas Citadel would be really great for us. So I think that would be kind of important, the next step of this deck. And Bolas Citadel is just that card where you can just play cards from the top of your library. You can play 1 land from, as long as you haven't played one for the turn, playing 1 from the library is, you could do that once. But if you hit another land, you're basically bricking. So you just want to keep on hitting spells and you can, instead of paying the casting cost of those spells, you can just pay life into it. So it's a very interesting card, of course. Dalthi is just like really that very interesting, like kind of graveyard hate deck. It like perhaps can give you some like options for counter magic potentially, because you're can play cards that go into your opponent's graveyards. You can play those with a void counter on it by tapping the Dalthi Voidwalker and sacrificing it. So just an overall very interesting card, very evasive as well. So and also increases our devotion. Just a very solid card for us. Here's Crick. I saw people kind of like commenting that Crick would be the kind of the card, maybe even to play this as the commander. Like Crick is, the commander, the mono black commander. I can see why you could say that. You can see it's very strong, right? Increases that devotion kind of instantly. It can be played for four colorless mana, which is also very interesting as well, because you can pay life, like 6 life to negate that casting cost. So and then it makes all your cards that have swamp in the casting cost, you can just pay it Phyrexian, so you can just pay 2 life for it instead of paying the swamp. So like things like, for instance, like our, let's just talk about like maybe a Blood on the Snow. So for instance, like a Blood on the Snow, you just be paying like the 4 colorless and the 4 life there, and then you'd be able to cast the card. So it's pretty interesting card overall, huh? And whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on Crick. So very interesting, huh? Very cool card for the 99, I think. Yeah, definitely. Okay, then we'll talk about some removal here. So we're kind of just looking at this real quick. Here we have Bitter Triumph here. I really like this one. I even feel like it's a nice one because you can choose to discard a card or pay 3 life. You like don't have to do, you can choose. There's another card like this called Bone Splinters, which is also very interesting. So this one just gives you the option to pay the 3 life as well. I think maybe Bone Splinters could perhaps be even better. So we'll have to look at that. But yeah, Bitter Triumph is cool as well. It is an instant, so that's definitely an interesting part about that. Toxic Deluge. This is just that very strong mono black card, or it can be played in any colors, any black deck. But we can just pay life, and then all creatures get XX -2 on the turn for how much life we spent to cast it, and the X, how much life we gave up. So just very good. Can do selective -X there, and really take care of the board. Sounds good to me. The Meat Hook Massacre. This is just an amazing card because it works so well with our deck. It's going to create devotion for us, which is always something we're going to be looking at. This deck can definitely operate as like more of a mid-range deck where we might not have any creature base. We might not have a board state, but we might have some like components that's going to make us very dangerous, like maybe a Nykthos with a few select enchantments here and there. And, we're just kind of operating in, kind of that zone of just like looking to combo off with through some draining. So the Meat Hook Massacre is very good for us, where we can use this as a board wipe, and then it can stick around and continue to have, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So that's good. If we have creatures that are dying, opponents will lose life collectively. And then whenever a creature or opponent control dies, we gain a life. So really good. Then Blood on the Snow, because we'll be playing Snowlands, so we can just basically wipe the board of creatures or planeswalkers, and then return a creature or planeswalker to the battlefield to pay, depending on how many snow mana we pay to pay the spell. So there's that removal portion. And here is our card draw engine. So like a Castle Locthwain. We'll see how this goes with our, Cabal Coffers and such. I'm still like kind of on the fence if it's going to be worth playing the Castle Locthwain, but for now it's in. Then we have Skull Clamp. These are just ways for us to draw cards, right? So Skull Clamp, whenever this creature dies, draw 2 cards. The creature gets +1/-1. Very good for the Bitter Blossom Fairies that are just 1/1s. Be generating lots of cards. Call of the Ring has like amazing, ring synergy with our Wraith. So this will act like sort of like a Sylvan Library to a degree, because we're going to be, triggering this like pretty often, and we're going to be getting tempted quite often too. So as long as we have the Wraiths continuing to come out, and this will all also by design in our upkeep trigger the ring temps, then as long as we have a creature on the battlefield, we're going to be drawing a card. So we can draw lots of cards with this. It's a very cool card. Black Market Connections, just another fantastic card that does everything we want it to do. We'll create Wraiths, we'll create Ramp, we'll buy it, we'll draw cards for us. It just does all those things at once. So good. Necropotence. This one's a tricky one, and I think that's why I really wanted to put like a Thought Vessel in this deck, just because with the Necropotence, we want to draw lots of cards, but the thing is you don't get a draw step. So basically at your end step you draw. That's how this works. So whenever skip your draw step, whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Very well. And then pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. So yeah, you want to do this before your end step, and then once the end step starts, then you draw. So, that's kind of what you have to keep in mind of Necropotence. All right, if you haven't played with it before. Here's Gix. We're gonna have we can go low. We can get a board too. It just depends. It really depends on the flow of the game. Sometimes this deck will give you different looks, and I think a Gix fits in very well where, we're going to be maybe having some low to the ground presentations, and we're going to be able to derive value from dealing combat damage and drawing. So Gix is just a fine choice for us, of course. And then the One Ring. Whoo, baby, that One Ring is good, huh, guys? So that will just draw us abundance of cards, give us some protection, help us set up a little bit longer. And that's it, everybody. That is the deck. That is Sauron the Necromancer. I'm very proud of it. It looks great. It looks very fun. It looks very powerful. So hopefully you all have a great day, and I'll let you know how it goes. Bye-bye.